Hey guys, so here's our long-awaited engineering notebook video. I just wanted to say that I really appreciated this year everyone that has helped us out, everyone who has posted YouTube videos for inspiration. I really appreciated seeing everyone's robots and the content that some of you guys shared, and I really appreciated my team. And we ended up getting quite a few awards this year, and I'm really proud of us. So first, we have some questions off of our Instagram that I'll be answering first. So how many hours a week? It really depends on how much work that I put into it. Usually what I would do is everyone would kind of write what they did on a Google Doc and like share it with me, or they'd text it to me, and I kind of would like add it in there. And then another thing that I did is I printed off a lot of pictures at Walmart. So whenever that I had those all printed, that's when I would kind of just like combine everything and put it all in the notebook. How many people do it? So everyone participated in the notebook in one way or another. Once again, we all like kind of put all of our ideas and dated them in a Google Docs, or tried to, and that's kind of how everyone contributed. Glue or tape? I would definitely say tape in case you want to remove something if you misplaced it. Tips on scouting, so we'll go into that. Okay, so we have someone specifically on our team who is just dedicated to scouting, so she was awesome. She did a great job. So she would make Google Sheets for each competition. This one was our states one, and we have the teams on this side, but I don't want to, hurt anyone's feelings or anything and expose anyone, but it was just for us. These were all based on stats that we found online, and we used the VEX VIA, and if you just search VEX rankings, usually something will pop up. So this is what we did, or what she did, and the different columns before we had the team names and stuff. So we have New York State ranking because we're in New York. The number of competitions they've been to kind of shows, maybe how dedicated their team is. Not necessarily though. How they qualified, or different awards. So if someone's qualified multiple times, we'd be like, oh, they might be big competition. Their best rank at a competition, their average rank at a competition, their driver skills, and their autonomous skills. Another thing that she did for states was she printed off sheets where she would fill in, the team's name, how many of each stack they were getting, the towers. So it was just kind of like a fill in the blank thing, and whatever teammates that we weren't using up at the drive team, they would help her fill those out. All right, so the next question is how to make your judges interview exciting. So I think the biggest part of VEX and how to get a good award is making your judges interview memorable. So one thing that we did is, you can kind of see in the background of this picture, we made this side for 7323A, and for states we made it all for us. But we had our team Instagram, we had different links, we had QR codes, we had different competitions that we would be attending or have already attended, past photos and pictures. We also had all of our past awards written on it. So this kind of just helped for other teams to scout us as well, because then they could see our past accomplishments, if we're a reliable team, and so forth. So we would bring the poster up with us when we were presenting, and another thing we did is we had a presentation, and we'd kind of go through everything and talk about everything. Talk about our different perspectives, our greatest struggles, what was most exciting, most memorable, and just kind of make it a fun environment. It's not supposed to be stress-inducing. It's supposed to be just like you talking about your team, kind of just showing off what you guys have done. Another thing that really helped us is one of our coders made a website, and you guys can check this out for yourselves, but it is awesome. It has team profiles, different events, everything that we've gone through, different awards, so forth. So we would hand them actually a flyer in like a little manila folder. We'd hand them a couple flyers with like QR codes that inspired us, the link to our website, the link to our Instagram, and so forth. All right, so the next question is how to make your notebook stand out. And one of the ways that I did this is I added stickers so that when the judges see our notebook, they remember this is their notebook specifically. So another thing that we did, and we'll kind of get more into this in a little bit, so I'll save that for later and answer more of the questions. All right, so quality of sketches. So I didn't do many sketches this year. I can try and pull some up. I don't know, just kind of some simple ones. You want some every couple of pages. Let's see if I can find some more. We had CAD. I feel like CAD, so I think what should come first is your sketches, and then CAD, just because it kind of like shows like your alignment and stuff. But as long as you're trying, I feel like that's the point with VEX, is to kind of just see improvement. But if you want your quality of sketches to be better, I would use a ruler. I know I have some freehand ones here. All right, so here are some of our sketches. I did these freehand, but I did these little letterings with a ruler just because I didn't have a lot of time. So one of the things is you want each of them to be labeled, and you want the parts to be labeled so people are like, oh, I know what that is, you know? So you want everything to also be in capital letters. I learned that from my dad, who is a carpenter. He always labels everything with capitals. Can you show a parts list? We just kind of use whatever, so I don't really know. I guess no. How do you write about testing? All right, so how we would go about testing. So this is pages for a rebuild, and we would kind of just talk about, you know, what would kind of be best, and we'd usually try out a few ideas before determining, and we would use, let me see if I can find a good one. So we would make different charts with our idea, our positives, our negatives, how reliable it is, how universal it is, and the score. And then that's how we would determine what we would decide. So this one, we have like the keys and definitions of each of the labeled parts so that everyone knows what we're talking about. And so for the autonomous, for this one, we just kind of would talk about the idea, what we liked about it, and we kind of like all group together and talk about these. And then I just kind of write down what everyone thought. So these are our brainstorming charts. General setup. All right, here we go. Firstly, we would have our table of contents, and I think I saw someone else do this, which is where I got that idea. But so we have our highlighted pieces so that it's easy to flip through, and we have the subject filled in and the date. Very important that you fill in everything for this. So we have a couple of pages. We got up to 75 pages this year. And then this page is kind of like the different chapters, as you would call it. So like you can see that we have multiple pages for each chapter. And then we went into our team. So we would write, you know, their grade, all that. Just kind of a description of them. You guys can pause the video and read through it if you want. Then the PLTW process, very important. And the first idea is what we think we're going to struggle with most. We kind of use the design award rubric to kind of write through these pages. And then we kind of got right into brainstorming our ideas. So that's kind of how we would go through everything. First thing we would do is our base, obviously. We highlight, you know, what we think is important. This washi tape, I don't know, I just thought it looked cute. You don't have to add that. I stopped adding it because I thought it was too much. Another thing is we would X out anything that was not used and dash it, and we fill in each and every single one of these spaces to make sure everything is correct, everything is documented. So we just kind of run through that, and you have to make sure each picture is labeled as well. And another thing that I really recommend is having all of your titles with the same spacing sort of, and the same like font. I don't know, I can write in like different letters or whatever. So I made sure all of them are in the same font. Next question is, how do you like constantly write or remember to write? So what I do is once I finish something, if I'm tired, if I have other homework to do, I would write it down on like a Google Doc because it's faster to type. Next question is, how do you know what to write? Because my team has too much filler info. So one of the things you can do, or that we did that I talked about before, is highlighting, what you think is most important, so that when the judges scan through your notebook, because they will scan, they're not going to read every single little detail. They can see exactly what you wrote about. If you ask them to reference a page during your presentation, they can easily see what it's about. All right, so the next question is, how do you utilize the title and project names for your engineering notebook? So the title is for the different chapter, and the project is what specifically we're working on. So for this, I was using, working on the high strength arm, so I have that in the big space, but the project specifically was the spacer and how I drilled one of the collars. So if you go to our different chapters, so the project name will go here and the title name will go here, so you can easily find the photos for the notebook. I'm the builder, and I primarily work on the notebook, so it's just easiest with the robot at my house for me to take all the pictures. How do you organize your thoughts, ideas, and things you want to explain to put in? So once again, I use the Google Docs frequently, and I also, if I'm doing a chart, I like to draw it out on like loose leaf first, because you are doing things in pen, so it is easy to mess up. What general format / layout do you follow? Usually I put the pictures, I try to crop them as much as I can. So for this one, and then I just I like to do a mixture of bullets and, paragraphs. So this one was kind of descriptive, and then things we did well. You don't have to go in super big depth for that, and things to improve on, just little bullets. Another thing we like to do is work documentation. So we have that, blah, blah, blah. I'll run through the notebook more after. All right, what do you color code and highlight? So we just kind of highlight whatever we want the judges to see when they flip through. All right, so now that I'm done answering questions, I'm gonna do my own take on this and kind of flip through and give you guys descriptions where I feel it's needed. So for these, I think it's really important to keep these as neat as possible and to have whoever is doing the notebook have the most neat handwriting. And I personally prefer more handwriting than printed out things. I had someone ask me that in my DMs as well. And you guys can pause this whenever and kind of read through. It's really important as well to add in coding, because a lot of people don't add in coding to their engineering notebook, and it's a very important piece. So right here, I found this was really important because, our driver is specifically for driving, so they don't really have a page to talk about besides coding and talking to the coders, but that's usually just associated with coding. So I added the controller page so that if we want to go back and reference what the different buttons we had were for, and if the judges are questioning anything. Another thing we do after each competition, or before each competition, is we have a goals list to kind of keep us on track. So we kind of check through, and this is great for the judges to see because it can see that we're accomplishing our goals. And then after the competition, we write down kind of what our thoughts were on it and our statistics, but I didn't do that for that one. So here's also our scouting poster. You can see kind of more in depth, and our scouter with my puppy. We also have a lot of improvement pages because we did improve on a lot. Here's a little side-by-side comparison with two drawings, before and after. And then here's our code, and we kind of like to add a little caption underneath each. Here's another competition. We didn't change much, so there weren't a lot of pages in between. We had a lot of pictures, and I kind of regret doing that, but I don't know, that's just kind of how things worked, especially because I am a senior. I had to deal with a lot of college essays and such, so. And then here's another thing that I think is really important. When you have your drawings, if you don't have the space to label them, I make a key so that when you're looking at the picture, you know what I'm talking about. So here is another page with a brainstorming chart. We usually do these for the bigger projects or if we're switching something up. Here is our competition updates. So we just kind of would date stuff if not much was going on, but we also wanted to include something or it doesn't deserve an entire page to itself. Some more goals. Here's our statistics so that they can see what award we got, what we want to improve on, wins, autonomous losses and wins, and how far we got. Now here's a lot of code because this was more when we got into it, especially with the Traybot. And then here's some CAD, very simple, but it's important to include any CAD you have. And then here's our checklist for states, just to kind of keep us on track. Some free-handed drawings with explanations. Very important to have explanations behind each drawing. Then here we kind of realized we weren't using as much mathematics or physics, and somebody from another team gave me this idea, so credits to them. I think they're from, I saw it on the Discord and I decided to kind of take my own spin on it and use this equation because I was asking my physics teacher for help on how to add more physics in it, and I showed him this picture, so he kind of just explained it, the meaning behind it, and the guy who was helping me also did the same, so credits to you. So there's all that, and then a key and some more CAD. Very simple again, but it's important to add. Here's another decision chart, but for multiple things rather than one thing. And then here's another thing that I thought was interesting that I did this year, was we had kind of like how we were planning out our autonomous drawn so that, you know, the judges can kind of see how it's supposed to function during the competition. So we have 4 different ideas, so we have each of those labeled. And a description underneath each. And some more code. And then I don't think that I finished checking all this off. Obviously, we didn't meet just 2 goals, but it was kind of pointless after. We just wanted to show the judges what we had and that we had goals for the day. So yeah. More importantly than your notebook is your presentation, and I just think that everyone's input should be spoken about when you're at the presentation, and if somebody is missing from your team, I would also talk about why they're missing so that when they're running through your notebook, they can tell that. If there's any other questions, our DMs are always open, and I hope you enjoyed this video. Thanks for watching.